Welcome to Also Consider This, the podcast where we think about the world differently. So, my name's Alastair.
And I'm Feng.
Alright, so first episode went out last week. How's it feeling?
Uh, I think it's weird looking yourself and hearing yourself on camera.
Yeah,
And even though I kind of seen myself on camera before, but for such a long time, like extended time of like 45 minutes, it still feels weird to me lah.
yeah. Well, not to claim credit, lah, okay? Not to claim credit, but I was editing it and I had to see myself a few more times during the edit.
Yeah, than me, yes.
Yes, and I think it wears off after a while. It doesn't stay. I mean, at the start it may feel weird, but after a while it changes.
Mhm.
And then sometimes I feel that it becomes like, I don't know. It sounds like your own voice becomes someone else's voice, like because whatever you hear in your head when you talk sounds completely different to what you hear in the monitors, and then it sounds again different when you are in the edit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So so we've made some changes today, right?
Yep. So as you can see that the setup seems to be
more
a little bit
planned.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more planned, right? So I think we are a bit more confident and we kind of have an idea of what we're doing rather than just shooting off the hip.
Which is still kind of how we want to do things. It's just a little more organized in that sense.
Yes, it's more thought out, and we have more thoughts as to how we set things up. It's more measured, it's more structured. So yeah, it's all good. And let's go to the topic of the day, right? Before we go to the topic of the day, we had obviously it's the first episode. We have some friends who gave us some encouragement.
Yep.
Right? So thanks for the friends who gave us subscriptions on YouTube, who
Or
follow
Spotify.
follow us on Spotify, comments, either in private or through the platforms. We are very thankful, right? And so we'll try to do our best. We'll try and make things more interesting. And yeah, let's move on to the topic of the day, right? Now, the topic of the day, I think the title we've set it as "You Own Nothing."
Yeah, I think this is something that we have wanted to talk about for quite some time. I think we also something that we realized gradually as we consume media over the years, and then we start to. I think previously when we were in secondary school, we were like, we have a lot of CDs. Then I think we moved on to like hard drives of like stuff, and then nowadays we slowly evolved to like streaming media, and then slowly then even more, then it starts to saturate. Like you have like multiple platforms that you have to keep track of, like what you're owning and what you're buying and what you are what platforms you're subscribed to.
Yeah. So I think let's take like just a gentle step back first, because I think we what you just described is a spectrum of roughly a rough description of the spectrum we went through over the past 2 decades or so, right? And what we mean by owning nothing or owning something is that we're referring to owning the ownership of physical media, right? So physical media refers to things like cassette tapes, CDs, vinyl records, game cartridges, game discs, things like that. So when back in the day where you wanted to buy a piece of music, you would walk into a CD shop, like that CD shop, or
Gramophone.
CD-Rama, things like that. And then, or if you want to buy a game, right, you go to a game shop and then you buy a big gigantic plastic box with a very small piece of plastic inside that actually is a physical representation, a physical manifestation of that medium, right?
And it basically contains the data that you need.
Yes.
That to consume the media, or to contain all the media that is lah.
Yeah, and when we say consume media, means like listen to the song or watch the DVD
or play the game.
Or play the game, right? And like what happened, I think in the last like 10 years or so, or even 15 years ago, if you went into a cash converters or whatnot, you would see people selling stacks and stacks of their prized, like once upon a time prized possessions of CDs, right? You would see gems in today's context, like you would see the original Baby Hit Me One More Time, Britney Spears or Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys or even NSYNC or whichever.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
if you go back even further, all the classic stuff.
exactly. And I feel that things are taking a turn, right? Now, what is the generally accepted default for consuming? Just take the example of music. What is the generally accepted default form of music consumption these days?
I think for me, I usually do Spotify. Previously, I was on Tidal. Then I had to juggle both platforms at once because Spotify didn't have lossless media until like I think they are only slowly rolling it out. I think next month.
It's not properly out yet.
Yeah,
basically.
so it's like it's only on certain selected markets starting October, I think. So it's like that's why I had to like juggle between the two. And then I know some friends are on Apple Music.
Yep.
Then
YouTube Music.
Yeah, if you prefer that way, yeah.
And I think alright, here's what kind of kicked off my irritations with these platforms, right? There are certain tracks or certain songs that I have not, or certain recordings I've not heard in a while. And then the so-called magical thing happened recently for me because for some reason YouTube recommended me a video on the classic iPod, and specifically is the so-called iPod video, and that was the first iPod that had video playback on it. Right.
Yep.
There was a YouTube version that is black and red.
Red, yeah.
Never got into that, and then it turns out it's actually quite surprising because what hit me was that it's not just the device that worked, because I dug it out. It's on my desk. I plugged it in. It charged, and when I went to go and find a pair of headphones that could work,
which is, I think, more rare to find wired headphones nowadays.
Yeah, and then you plug it. So in the end, I think I plugged in this particular set of headphones that I had because I just needed something that the cable was built in, right? And then it hit me like, okay, some people may claim that the chip inside the iPod, the Wolfson chip inside the iPod is like overrated or people just rave too much about it. Yes, maybe not. But the thing is that it is far better sounding than it was.
Whatever you can get nowadays, lah.
At least through some random Bluetooth earpods, right?
Yeah.
And there were tracks in there from compilation CDs that no longer existed or or are not actually on the platforms, right? You could probably find it hidden somewhere on YouTube, right? Those bootlegs and stuff like that. And the next big surprising thing for me is that hey, there's this modding scene for this particular iPod.
Yeah, I think I have also seen like the micro drive inside the iPods are failing after particular number of years.
So let me tell you what I found were the most common mods, right?
Yeah.
So the first level is people trying to retain that original device as much as possible. That means the original case with the serial number, that hard drive, the battery as much as possible, as close to the original as possible, things like that. So that's the first level. And then the next level are the people who mod. And the mods kind of grow in level as complex as you want them to be. So the first level is obviously the battery. Because the battery fails, right? I'm gonna put in the notes. There's this video by Casey Neistat about the iPod's dirty little secret. The battery dies, right? We all know that the battery dies. So have a look at it. It was Casey Neistat.
I think it's the one that made him blow up as a...
No, I think it's even long before that. Yeah. I think he blew up in recent time because, in the recent decade, because of his daily vlogs, right? Yeah. And there are people who saw the daily vlogs but don't actually know, or they just don't remember
how he came about doing a...
Yeah, they don't remember that part where he was that guy who made that video. So that's the battery, right? And then the next level is SD card support. That means you could take out the hard disk, because hard disks are mechanical. They are mechanical disks that look like vinyl players and they spin around and they will break.
Because of that rotating thing, after a while it wears and tears, then it kind of dies. Which is what happened to my iPod Classic actually. It
probably is in the drawer somewhere. Yeah. You can mod it. And you can actually replace it with micro SD cards. And micro SD cards are more secure, obviously, in terms of physically you can tape them down and they won't run away. Actually, some of the SD card mods that require the full size SD card, from what I've read, those are more sturdy because there's a clicking mechanism, whereas your micro SD card is just a slide in. And some users have reported that their cards slide, like, sort of jump out.
Yeah, because of the spring.
No,
mechanism.
not because of spring. It's just that when it's inside the slot and it runs around your pocket, it would just like slowly jump out.
Due to your like micro vibrations and stuff like that.
And when it runs around your pocket, it sort of jumps out. So people just, as all army terms, you go black tape saves it.
Yeah.
You just use black tape, just tape it down. And you can actually put like 3 SD cards and you can get like terabytes of
like, it's basically you can carry all your whole music collection in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly that. You can have your own little Spotify inside there, and iTunes doesn't exist anymore, but surprise, surprise, Apple Music still works with your iPods. So iTunes doesn't live as it doesn't live as iTunes anymore. It's rebranded as Apple Music, but when you plug in your iPod,
Apple Music pops up and then it recognizes the iPod.
Yeah, the iPod appears as it used to inside your Apple Music. And
Right.
that I think is quite amazing. The only limitation of that iPod, you may be able to put in like terabytes of files inside there, but the physical limitation of the iPod is the table size. So okay, please don't mind me being nerdy. So
I think it's 2 terabytes or something like that, right?
no, it's not about that. So basically, how does your iPod know that this file is this song by Mariah Carey?
So there's a lookup table. Then
There's a lookup table. So it's like an Excel table for lack of a better way to describe it. It's like an Excel table that says that this file is Mariah Carey. This file with this location has Mariah Carey's dreadful Christmas song there, right? And then and the limitation of the iPod is that the iPod's table limitation is, I think, 20,000 songs. So the iPod is limited to 20,000 tracks.
So if you go beyond that, then
It doesn't recognize new music inside the thing.
okay.
Yeah, so you can put in lossless files. You can put like Apple lossless files, cause FLAC doesn't work on iPod. Yeah, so I don't know if Wave works, but basically if you put in lossless files, you can still have up to 20,000 lossless files in your iPod, and because it's not a mechanical thing, it can load them quite fast. So people have said that their iPod loads faster, and because it's also non-spinning disk, the battery lasts forever. Like you can last quite long between charges. And then the next level of mods, so after the battery, then the storage, the next level of mods is things like putting in a Bluetooth
Transmitter so that
you can put your AirPods into it. Not into it, but you can put your AirPods through it. You can
connect to a Bluetooth device. You
Yeah.
can stream it somewhere else.
I think it's
wirelessly.
in my opinion a bit. If you want to go there, I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, because you are down sampling your quality of the music anyway once you go through wireless.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one. And also like I think it sort of takes away that iPod experience of having a cable running through. And come on, it's not that big of
Cumbersome, yeah.
it's not that big of a hassle to have a cable running from your pocket to your ears.
And I think because the classic iPod look was that the white cable and I remember it was like it's a true Y cable where
Yeah,
like,
I mean, but it's a cultural thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a
a
thing.
cultural icon lah.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing, and I reckon it's of that time. You may want that convenience, but hey, if you want the convenience, actually, you still have access to Spotify. You have access to YouTube Music, Apple Music. You can still stream, right? And I think what this actually means, moving away from the mods. Before I move away from the mods, the last level of mods is that you can change the colors. So because
Yeah, I know. I've seen on like some of my Shopee feed. It's starting to recommend me like the people have different cases and different colors
Yeah,
for
you
it?
can buy special colors. You can be like ostentatious and get the stupid transparent one, and basically see the entire innards of the iPod. I don't understand why you want to do that. It's like I know this is retro, but it is not 1990s retro.
It's still early 2000s, I guess.
Early 2000s transparent was not exactly retro, but that's a matter of taste, and
Yep. So
it's not my
let's.
taste. Yeah.
So coming back to our
Yeah,
topic
so-
of the day.
I mean, back to that media, right? I think what that media ownership, that model of media ownership, which is you buy a record or a CD, you bring it home, you play it on your player, and then you put it on the shelf, and then five hours later, 5 years later, 5 decades later, so long the medium is not damaged, you can put it back into a player that still works and it plays.
Yeah. So I think for me, the very big allure of owning a record last time was, so when you buy the CD, there's an insert to it,
Yep.
and then you get, sometimes there's lyrics, or the songwriter or
Yeah.
the artist, they have photo shoot for the album, I guess.
Yes.
They put lyrics to it, and I think sometimes also is that, I think in the early 2000s to the mid 2000s, where CD was still very popular, then you had like different editions of the CD.
Yeah.
Like for example, you could have like I remember like Linkin Park, one of the CD shops lah. Basically, we pre-ordered and we went there to collect the Meteora. I think that was the second album.
I do remember owning that album. I don't remember how I got it, but I do remember listening to it over and over.
Yeah.
And
It was one of the albums of that
era.
decade lah. Yeah.
Yeah. And for that particular album, I remember the edition that we got. It had a very different case. It didn't use your standard CD duo case.
I think it was paper.
It was a
Then
flip
it was
open.
like fold out and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was a fold-out case that is akin to actually a vinyl record. We didn't know it back then. Like when we were teenagers, we didn't know it, but it actually, in reality, is basically
It's
like
based on the design of a vinyl record.
Yeah, and what you described, right, actually makes a big difference. What you described in terms of like having a sleeve with the lyrics and all that. Actually, in my opinion, the CD sleeve is quite insignificant compared to what a vinyl record can give you.
Because you have a bigger
Yes, there's a bigger
size to
footprint.
work with.
Yes, there's a bigger footprint, and the photos and all that. What happens is, it does two things. One, it allows the artist the artist to visually express themselves through the paper. And second, what I realized after collecting some vinyls, right, especially if you go through Japanese vinyls, is that you must remember this is an era where there was no internet, and what people saw of another country or another region of the world
It's through their media, their
It's-
culture.
through their culture, but how do they see it? It's either, if you were living in Japan, it's either NHK brought some of it back through their TV channels, or if you went to a record shop and a Western record label came over and introduced a band to you through the records, right? And if you go into the sleeves, you will actually see, like, why would you need, if you're living in the West, why would you need an introduction to the Beatles? Right? But if you bought a vintage Japanese vinyl that is a Beatles album through a shop in Japan, there were actually some introductions to
Like who are the band members? Who
what
are
they are about and all that. Their
in
names,
the native language of
Exactly.
the market that they
their
are in,
names.
lah.
You will see. Sometimes you might see Japanese translations to what is on the paper and things like that, and it represents a very different time. And to me, those are the nuances of
Physical media.
especially vinyl records. And vinyl records, they are beautiful. They give a very impressive, outstanding kind of presence in a home, but they're heavy, they're cumbersome. The humidity in Singapore is not a good place for vinyl records.
It's not the best way to preserve songs in that sense.
Yes, I mean it wears out. So
Yeah.
if for goodness sake, please, if you buy a vinyl record, either don't play with it until you buy a proper turntable.
With proper speakers that you can enjoy.
I mean, no, not even that. Like, look, because quality of sound is a very acquired
subjective
taste.
thing. Yeah.
It's subjective. It's acquired taste. So you don't need the best sounding speakers and all that, in my opinion. But for the love of protecting the piece that is in front of you, please don't buy a Crossley type thing, and then have a stylus tear your vinyl record. I have without knowing it, I've bought records that don't really sound good or skip a lot.
Because somebody damaged it previously, or
Yeah, because these are second-hand records, so it just happens, right? And I take it on the chin, partly because when I buy an album that is used, I kind of expect a chance of that happening, for one. And honestly, if let's say I want to listen to The Police, I can still listen to it on Spotify. Let's just be honest here. Like a damaged record is not going to.
it's not the end of the world in that sense.
Yeah, it's not going to deprive me of ever listening to that band ever again. Although at the same time, I would rather not damage something that's in my hands. So just get a good turntable. It doesn't cost that much. I have suggested to friends like turntables, direct drive turntables or Audio Technica for like that are less than $200, right? At least if you get one of those, it will not trash your piece of vinyl. So I think that matters, right? And yeah, that ownership experience is great. We don't listen to those records that often. There are a lot of those. In fact, especially the modern ones, many of them aren't probably had a single play, right? And there are some people that I know of who will think that my speakers are either rubbish or think that I paid too much for those. Yes, I do take that point, but I also do not want to make myself need to buy a
Very expensive speakers. Yeah.
I know it's a endless poisonous pit. I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I get to hear the sound and the actual physical touch of the media actually matters more than the sound. Yeah. I also have a friend who scrutinizes his vinyls. Good for him, but not my kind of thing. Yeah. Now he's trying to sell me he's trying to sell me styluses because of his upgrades.
Yeah, I think it's once you get into the vinyl thing, I feel it's like a endless pit that you will not be able to get yourself out of.
Yes, and which actually and also because of that, vinyl records have millennials like us have been buying vinyl records, and the prices have been going up. They used to be like $5 a piece used and all that, right? Now there are vinyl records with grading and all that, and what this has led to is that people have moved on to CDs.
So CDs are now going to be.
I believe CDs are new vinyl.
A comeback.
I personally believe that CDs are new vinyl, right?
But at the same time, what I do know is that CD or any of the optical media stuff can suffer from disc rot. So it's like I think what a lot of people start to notice, especially because CD is such a popular media in the early 2000s and until the 2010s.
Yeah.
That almost everything you know it's on a CD to be disseminated, right? So you had like music, then you had your VCDs, then after that it went to DVDs, then Blu-rays, then your computer games, basically your PC games are on CDs, then it became on DVD. PlayStation, everything's on CD. I think the only manufacturer that still is in cartridge form is Nintendo. So what people have started noticing is that they had like even not so old media, like I think a PS3 game. PS3 came out I think 2006. So like some of the discs have started not working because the actual media itself, the basically that I don't know whether the thing that was laminated,
The die, right?
the die, right? Whatever that was on that plastic piece that's underneath, it's slowly rotting away.
Actually, that's quite contrary to what I know.
Yeah.
What I knew before you mentioned this was that if you bought a commercially produced CD, especially one that's made from like the 90s, like from the late 90s onwards, because CD is actually not that new a piece of technology.
Yeah, it's like 1984,
Yeah,
85.
something like that. And if you bought something that was made like in the 90s, and if you bought something that was commercially made in a decent
But
factory,
it's a pressed CD instead of a burnt one.
yes, when I say that, what I mean exactly, that's what I mean, right? If it's a commercially made produced CD, as compared to something that you bought where it's a blank and then you use a CD burner at home to create, the longevity of the medium actually can change, can be quite different if you bought a good commercially produced CD. And so I'm quite surprised that this is happening. Is it because of the way it's stored?
Yeah, so basically disc rot, if you actually dive a bit deeper into it, is the chemical and physical deterioration of optical disc, causing data loss and unreadability. It's usually due to oxidation, heat, humidity, light, and contaminants, and also sometimes poor manufacturing.
I also buy records because, for me, records, if you buy them in particular countries that are not your home ground, can sort of become souvenirs in their own right.
Yeah, it's like it commemorates like
Yes.
your travels and
Yes.
stuff like that.
So, like, for example, I went to Japan with my wife and we bought records, and we have certain records that we know that we bought them in Japan. I have Oasis records that there's like, I think if you look in the background of your shot, there's an Oasis album, the Be Here Now album, that has Japanese wording on it. And I've bought the same album. Like, this is the album that I don't know why I bought like 5 times without knowing it. I keep thinking I'm
So
not
you have it
bought,
on vinyl, you have it on CD.
and I have it on vinyl again, and I have it on CD again.
So you got 2 vinyls, 2 CDs.
Yes, something like that. I don't know why. I keep thinking I have not bought the album, and then I somehow buy it again.
Yeah, you can always.
No, I'm not gonna. It's just different presses also. I think one of them is a remaster or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So that's just what it is. But I think, speaking of which, the most. So like, yeah, I got a cheap thrill, right? I will try to buy a record from the artist's hometown or country.
Because they might do a special edition.
No, just because for the kick of it.
Right.
So, like, for example, I have a Lord album from Auckland.
Because she's from.
Just because she's Kiwi.
Yeah.
I have the Police album that I told you about just now. I bought it from Newcastle because Sting is Geordie.
Yeah.
Things like that. So, oh yes, and then Blur's Magic Whip album. Is also from Hong Kong. Cause it's an album.
It was produced in.
It was an album about Hong Kong and also produced in Hong Kong. So
Right.
So that's why it makes good souvenirs, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I think for me, physical media wasn't really more about. It's not really about music. For me, it's more like films. So I started like buying DVDs. So there are certain DVDs I know, like, okay, I'm going to keep it because I feel like this film is like worth watching.
Exactly.
Then I might do a yearly rewatch kind of thing. So I owned Lord of the Rings, the extended set on like DVD. Then after that, but then after a while, because I think part of the reason why I kind of abandoned optical media or physical media for films is because nowadays you buy like a laptop, you need to get the drive separate. So it's like, it's a bit of a hassle for me. It's like, okay, I need to buy a different hardware just to consume the media I already own.
I think that's a poor excuse, bro.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm gonna call you out. That's
but
a poor
it's
excuse.
a bit.
Your PlayStation 5 still takes that DVD and that Blu-ray.
DVD, I'm not sure. Blu-ray, yes. So
the Xbox Series X still the one with the disc drive that I have, it does take DVDs.
yeah, so for me is that part of the reason why I transited like half into like physical and digital media, because digital media to me was like, okay, if I have one copy, I don't want to dig out a drive to read it if I have it on like let's say Apple TV for example, I can watch it on like my laptop. I can watch it on the TV with the Apple TV box. I can like watch it on the iPad or my phone. I can stream it. Like I don't need the physical media to bring it around.
I get that point, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you brought this point out
Yeah.
because it's probably something that I would have brought out. But I'm surprised that you brought it out because okay, you're basically a nerd on these like all these
Yeah.
things, audio production, video production, and all these sort of things, right?
Yeah.
So you would be more perceptive of what is produced on screen or through your speakers
That's true,
than
but
most people. And I would have thought that the bit rate of the file matters because even though it's a 4K screen, it's a 4K video on Disney Plus, it doesn't mean that it is going to be a better quality of video
of
than
course.
the 4K Blu-ray disc.
I think also for me was because owning physical media takes up space. And I think space in Singapore is kind of a little bit of a luxury. Then I start to see my collection, then it's like ballooning, right? Then it's like, okay, I think maybe let's just keep it at that. Then from then on, maybe like I think the transition point was I think like the mid 2010s. Then I kind of like okay when a lot of these like streaming platforms or like the digital media platforms started being available geographically here, because I think when it first started it's only like US only or Europe only or like, so it's not really in our markets yet. So when it started going into our markets I was like okay, maybe yeah, I don't mind owning one if it's from a reputable source, in a sense that like I am more secure in a sense that like maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the road they're not going to shut down their servers, then I'm not able to re-download them again. So I think that's still the fear, of course.
Okay. Let's stick to the video or the movies side of things, right?
Yeah.
You rewatch certain movies, but isn't that going to be, if let's say you wanted to just stick to streaming or stick to a digital service form of medium, isn't that going to cost you? Because how many films do you see that you will watch again within a year? For sure. Right? Like you're a Nolan fan. Right? So how many Nolan films would you rewatch again? Would you rewatch The Dark Knight?
Of course,
Right?
definitely.
Within a year? Would you rewatch Interstellar within a year?
Yes.
Would you rewatch
Inception?
Right? How many more films is the one with the nukes? Oppenheimer, right? So now, assuming each runtime, I know the runtimes are longer for some of the films. So assuming there's total 8-hour runtime, right? How many of these 8 hours worth of films would you rewatch a year? That's the first thing. But you're paying for 12 months a year to rewatch all these, and then it's also varied, right? So Lord of the Rings is going to be in there.
Yeah.
Right.
So
the Matrix trilogy is in there.
So
Then
a
you're
lot
gonna-
of all these stuff, like, so a lot of these I don't own them. I own them as not through the streaming platform, but I own them through like I bought the license.
You buy the Blu-ray discs basically.
Not the Blu-ray, but like the digital copy of it. I buy it on either Apple Movies or like
Exactly.
Google.
So basically it's DRM, right? It's like
Yeah.
buying an iTunes store song,
yeah.
right? You bought the single song for what was then 99 cents in US dollars in that
I think
format.
Singapore is like $1.28.
Yes, but the thing is this: if you accidentally delete the file, you're out. If you accidentally delete that movie, or if your hard drive crashes, or if your house is like your computer sort of burns up for some reason, you're out. If you don't have a backup,
Which kind of reminds me of a
and it's easier to lose that backup or to lose that hard drive than to lose a stack of CDs. I would argue.
yeah. So which kind of reminds me of like a weird thing that happened. So, one of the, besides movies, I play games. So one of the great creators on the PlayStation platform is Hideo Kojima. So he does Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
So in I think 2016, 2014. So it was like a year after the PlayStation 4 was released. So at that time, Kojima is still with Konami. So Konami is the studio that did like Metal Gear and they did Silent Hills. So he did this teaser called PT. So literally it means playable teaser. So it kind of alludes to the fact that he is working on a remake of Silent Hill. So that time I think it was like he engaged Norman Reedus, he engaged like Guillermo del Toro. So it's like Hollywood names. So like they kind of like remade this whole like a teaser of like Silent Hills. Then after that, what happened is that it was available as a demo on the PlayStation Store. But the problem is that after he was fired from Konami due to like I think creative differences and stuff like that, then also Konami took it down from the PlayStation Store. So the thing is that there are copies of PT, the demo, existing on first generation PlayStation 4 hardware, because if you're on the subsequent PlayStation 4 hardware, even though you log into the same account, you're not able to download it.
Basically, it's already downloaded, pre-downloaded. So basically, the entire device is valuable.
Yeah. So there are like, if you go on eBay, you can find like people who are selling first generation PlayStation 4s with the PT demo still inside the hard drive.
Yeah.
Then like it's valued at like thousands of dollars because people still want to play that thing, and it's like a collectible because it was kind of like the last works of Kojima before he left Konami. So yeah, like what you said previously, your point, I totally get it. Like what if I accidentally deleted it? Like all this kind of thing. I also understand the risk. So, but at the same time, you want a very...
It's a convenience versus
yes.
the thing, right? So yeah, that's the thing we're moving on to, which was that if you own a CD or a game cartridge, you own the rights of access and it's reachable in more or less perpetuity or for the lifespan of that piece of hardware. Whereas if it's a subscription through a subscription service, if you don't pay next month, you're not going to have access to that piece of music or that film anymore.
Or game or something.
Yes, and then 12 months later, if maybe you decide to pay for it again, it may or may not be there, even if you continue paying for it.
Yeah, I think streaming right now, the problem is that because of the fragmentation of the streaming landscape, is that I think Oppenheimer was on Apple, then it was available on like Netflix, then after that right now it's not available on Netflix because the rights was like only for like 12 or 18 months, then it's like expired. Then if you want to watch it, that's why there's like websites that do tracking like, oh, this month these few films are off Netflix, then please catch it before it goes.
Yes, that's one aspect of it. And the second aspect, right, which I would say is that at least owning a piece of either having a file stored on your hard drive, even with legally or illegally, that means you got DRM and it's completely legal, you bought it from a proper channel, or if you downloaded it, through unlawful means, you still get to hold on to it and you can have access to it, right? Whereas if you went through a streaming service, if you may not even get the version that you wanted.
Like I think the great thing that people the greatest example of this, I think, is Star Wars.
Yeah, so the most commonly I'm not going to cite Star Wars, but I'm not going to give that too much because I think there are lots of people who know much more than us.
Yeah.
But the too long didn't read segment to this is basically there are versions of Star Wars with different people acting or different versions of it.
Right? I think there was some that was remastered, then the special effects was like redone and stuff like that.
I mean, if you bought a more recent version copy of Star Wars or you watch it on Disney Plus, you might be offended that when in the final scene of episode 6 you will see Darth Vader depicted as Anakin Skywalker, which is
not the original.
Which is Hayden Christensen, and some people are just offended by it. Okay, now mine is more obscure. So I used to love to watch Scrubs, the sitcom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the big thing for me is, now this is the reason why I say even my Disney Plus subscription doesn't justify it, because Scrubs as a sitcom is quite unique in the sense that they lean into
music.
the music, and Zach Braff likes indie music,
Yeah.
and a lot, some is indie, some is pop, right? Some songs are popular, and the thing is that the musical themes are quite important in pushing the story forward, and only in the original, if you got a bootleg copy of what's recorded off the TV, will you get to see the content in its original form.
Like even the Blu-ray version doesn't.
Yeah, not even the DVD. Like, I have a signed DVD copy somewhere, and that is not what I originally saw. What was supposed to be, because when they made the show,
They license the music to
they
use.
didn't think of it as
Yeah.
exactly. They didn't think of it as, we're gonna make this show. It's gonna be on DVD. It's gonna be. Nobody thought of streaming because even YouTube didn't exist back then, right? So they just thought, but nobody's gonna buy a DVD of this show, and then it's gonna be on TV. And only later then they realized, oh, we don't have the rights to play.
To license it.
Yeah.
For further.
So the future, even if you watched, if you're in the UK and you watch like a rerun of it, right, in the afternoons, you don't get to hear the original music for it.
And because I remember is that the music plays a very big part in certain episodes, because the theme of the episode is actually centered around either a track or a artist or
it will push the story forward.
Yeah.
It's designed to push the story forward.
because I remember I discovered Colin Hay through Scrubs.
Yes. Oh, that is included because he played in the.
Then there was a few other artists that like they were meant their tracks were like used quite frequently.
Yeah. So so some of the songs are there, some are not. It does annoy me when they are not really.
Because that's not how you remembered it. So
Yeah.
it kind of
And it doesn't
spoils the nostalgia for you.
Not just the nostalgia, but it makes the story feel different also.
Yeah.
So that's why I tend to want physical media to still exist. I don't have a Switch 2 yet, and I don't foresee myself owning one.
Yeah.
I see the maybe I've seen too much negative press from the mainstream media, but what I've seen is enough to put me off.
Yeah, so I own a Switch 2. I got it on launch day.
Can you please explain what this whole thing is about? Because
Yeah.
you know it better than I do.
So a part of me still feels very uncomfortable with owning a lot of Switch 2 games, because every cartridge that comes out, right? If you are not a Nintendo, so you're not Nintendo. So if you are a third party or a game studio that wants to publish on Switch 2, you have to pay Nintendo to buy the physical cartridge to place your game inside. So I think previously on Switch 1, your physical cartridge has a few variants. So there's like the storage space of it is like, I think there is a 32 gig one and a 64 gig one. So the problem of the Switch 2 is that there's only 64 gigabytes. And I think the only launch game that was able to, which is why it's a technical marvel that Cyberpunk 2077 is able to squeeze everything on the physical Switch cartridge, because all 64 gigs is on it. And it's all the whole game plus Phantom Liberty, which is the DLC, is totally on with that cartridge. So a lot of the games, because it's on a...
Wait, before you go on, that Cyberpunk, if I recall, is something like in the hundreds of gigabytes if you play on like an Xbox or PS5.
Yeah, I think it's about... Yeah, so there's some data compression that does for the Switch 2 edition. I'm not...
Well, okay, I'll put it this way. I just had a quick search, right? It's about 110 gigs for PlayStations.
Yeah, so the Switch 2 version is like...
They're basically half the
10,
size
yeah.
of it, yeah.
So then what happened is that because they're only available in the 64 gigabytes flavor, so, and as you know, games are now getting bigger and bigger, and also because the cost of making the physical media, you have to pay a licensing fee to Nintendo. So a lot of third-party studios don't buy that cartridge. They buy a cheaper version, which is what I call a game key card. So a game key card is still a physical cartridge, but that cartridge doesn't have any data on it. It only gives you the license. So once you insert it on your Switch 2 console, it phones home to the Nintendo eShop to say that, okay, this guy has a copy of this. Can you start downloading all the data that's needed for, let's say, I think one of the games that was quite well known was Hitman. So the Hitman game on Switch 2 is a game key card. So if once you insert it, it phones home to the servers and say that, okay, download all the data that's needed to play the game. So the problem of this that I feel uncomfortable about is this. What if 10 or 15 years down the road and that Nintendo decides to switch off the servers for it?
So that means basically they don't
host
they
the
don't let you
media.
download the files anymore.
Yeah, and I actually I paid a full price,
which is like $80 or
like
something that.
$80 for that game. But then 15 years down the road, I no longer can play that game.
And
but
to make things worse, that's also the concern I have, right? To make things worse, they have a track record of doing
yes,
that.
exactly.
They have killed off the Nintendo DS store. They've killed off the game store for the Wii.
And they are, I think, in the process of killing off
the Wii U.
the Wii U. And how they monetize all this is that once they kill it off, they kind of bring back all these things under their like emulation thing. That's like, oh, you pay a subscription fee to us to play the retro games.
Play the retro games, but not in the original form.
That you might already own on SNES, for example, but
Yes.
then you want to play it on your shiny Switch 2.
Yes.
Then you have to pay a subscription fee just to play.
And despite all the emulation, it's still emulation. It's not the real thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's my main concern of the Switch. I think that's
Which is why there are like some companies that is actually making money through this whole retro gaming trend, which is, I think, the most prominent one is the Analog NT, which is manufactured by Analog. So what they did was that they get old, I think they started with the Nintendo Entertainment System, so the NES.
Mm-hmm.
So they take the whole NES motherboard or the innards of it, and then they redo, they have the logic board then, but then they put in new parts for it. Then they repackage it in a very, very nice gunmetal grey thing. That then they sell it to you, like, I think it was like, I think 500 USD or something like that. I don't know what's the actual cost of it, but it basically, what they're trying to sell you is basically nostalgia and basically the right for people to use the physical media that they actually already own. Just that maybe their NES from like 1985 is like dying, then they can buy this shiny new old tech that.
Yes. There's also the one that Casey Neistat went to mod retro chromatic, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, it's a device that it looks like a Game Boy, plays like a Game Boy, but it has a modern screen and it's like a
Yeah, so
proper
basically it's
metal
the innards
construction.
of a Game Boy Color, or is it Game Boy Light?
Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has the innards of the Game Boy Color, but then the screen and everything is like the newest. And there's also talking about going back full circle to what you started with, which is like modding iPods. There are people who are modding Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color nowadays with like OLED screens.
Yeah.
So like, because I think there's still a charm about physical media that, like, to play back the same copy of Game Boy or of Pokemon Red that you own in 1998, when now in 2025 still is a very big pool for a lot of people, even
Okay.
though it might be available on the eShop or something like that.
Now let me put it to you this way. Let's just be cheeky, right? Let me ask you. So why don't you just turn off all your streaming services, right? That have the same content as what you could own on the disc or discs. Why don't you just turn them all off and just live off the grid? Why don't you just do that?
I think the problem is because a lot of streaming platforms nowadays are no longer just a medium in which you consume content. In the sense that they are not just like a pipe to deliver the content to you. Like Netflix, Disney Plus themselves are also studios in their own right nowadays, where you have fresh new content that you might want. Let's say, for example, I think the most hot thing nowadays was K-pop Demon Hunters, I think.
Yes.
Like everybody wants to watch that, you have to buy Netflix
Yes.
to watch it. if I want to watch Andor, I have to be on Disney Plus. So it's like, yes, it is a nice idea to say that I can turn off and live off the grid, but in order to sometimes consume new media like Squid Game, for example, I want to watch season 3, I have to be on Netflix. I can't just turn off and Netflix don't release their, or Disney Plus don't release their series on the physical media. So
You're stuck with that,
yeah,
basically.
kind
Well,
of.
I mean, okay, that is one. I think there's also another piece of streaming media that I think is very new, that is very different, is YouTube, right? You can't possibly get a YouTube piece of content through a disc. Let's just talk about Spotify, right? Spotify, I have a friend who recently stopped using Spotify. He basically ported all his playlists. There's a service that allows you to copy and transfer all your playlists into and all your saved tracks into YouTube Music. Put this into perspective, all right? A YouTube premium subscription for a family of 6 accounts is 27 Sing dollars
For a year.
per month.
Okay.
Per month, all right? Individual users is a few bucks a month.
Yep. I think it's $11 something.
Yeah, and you still get ad-free YouTube. So it's they're basically two. You can effectively consider them as 2 services in one. That means you got a video service and you got a music service, and you pay one price. So 27 divided by 6 is about $5 bucks.
4.5, yeah.
Yeah,
four.
right. Whereas the Spotify subscription is gonna cost you
$10.98 now.
Okay.
$10.90.
okay. It's,
So for me, one way that I kind of like make it cheaper for myself is that instead of paying for Spotify, because I do a single account for now, like an individual premium individual. So instead of paying for it on my credit card, or like I charge it to the credit card, I buy the top up cards. Because the top up cards is still 59.40 Sing dollars for 6 months. So if you work it out, it's 9.90 per month. So it's still on the old rate.
Yep.
So you can still save like $1 a month if you use the top. The only hassle is that you can only store 18 months of credits in the account.
Yes. So there are still ways to make it less expensive.
Some people use a VPN, which I don't think is the smartest way, because the geolocation thing now is like,
Just basically, you still have to pay. It's an extra service, and the only videos you get from Spotify are basically video podcasts. That's all you're gonna get. Oh, okay, some music videos.
yeah.
But
But I don't usually even watch them. I just
Yeah. So the thing is, if you wanted to cut one cable, so to speak, just to cut one streaming service, you could cut Spotify. But you may cut off Spotify, but Spotify cannot cut you off. In the sense that if tomorrow somebody wanted to share a track with me, as I did to my friend who stopped his Spotify account subscription, I still sent a song that I like a new release from a remake release of a certain song to that friend, and that link was a Spotify link, and the person was forced to listen to it through ads basically. And when you share playlists, by default, you will most likely be sharing a playlist that came off Spotify.
yes.
It's
true.
because it's
It's so ingrained into like culture and like
that ubiquity is annoyingly sticky, and that kind of makes me have to pay for it. If I really wanted to cut the cable, it might be an issue that annoys me, and that's also another reason to stick to that lah. I would say if you have no interest in getting access to certain TV shows and all that, like I don't have an Apple TV subscription, then I would just continue to just not have it. If there's, I mean, if you're using it and somebody is watching it regularly, then paying for it I think is fine. But I think if you're paying too much to just maintain all these subscriptions, then it's just a waste of money. And I would also say that physical medium has its use, right? Like we've discussed earlier, it makes you connected to the
artist or the creator.
the artist, the creator, as well as the storyline or the piece of music that you find that's important to you.
I think streaming services was kind of, the conversation about streaming services has evolved in the sense that I think previously, at least in the US, not really here locally, because I think streaming services only only came out like a little bit later when the rest of the market has kind of matured already before it came to Singapore. I think how the future could be like, where that live sport could actually change how the streaming media, which I think it has already started changing in UK. Well, I think like certain Premier League games are on like Amazon and they start to decentralize like
And there's NBA games as well.
yeah.
Right.
So
I mean, ultimately, certain types of content still requires, in the way that we live today, with the infrastructure and the technology that we have today, ultimately certain types of content certain streams you still need to pay for them if you want to consume that content. I would say that to me, physical medium is good for things that you would treasure.
there's a sentimental value
Yes,
and a
it's
nostalgia that's attached to it.
It's a blend after all, and I think there is validity to what younger purchasers of media are doing. There was this piece like I found previously, like they were saying that in 2024 CDs outsold vinyl and hit a 30-year record. Vinyls are getting pointlessly expensive. CDs are getting are rising in price as
Like
well.
making a comeback of some sorts.
I have seen.
So hopefully some of the CDs that we're holding on to could potentially
it's
make us some money.
I'm not so bothered about that. I'm more bothered by the fact that it's gonna get more expensive for me to acquire CDs.
Right. And if you really want the fidelity, there's nothing still beats a CD over digital media.
Yes. And my optimistic point of view on that is that CD players kind of died in production in the past decade, and this resurgence also
could bring back certain,
just like how turntables have become better as well. So what would you say, like about you own nothing?
I think there's some truth to it, because there are certain stuff that is like cheaper on a eShop or PlayStation Network store, where it's like a game is cheaper if I buy a digital copy, but there's a part of me that still wants a physical copy, because like what you said, what if the servers are turned off in 5, 10, 15 years, then can I still play it? Because some of this media is not just something I want to own, but it's also something I want to share to like the next generation, or like people like if I have kids next time, I want to show them like, okay, Final Fantasy VII looks like this. It's not just the remake, but the original 1997 version. So it's like, if these digital media gets turned off in the sense that the servers are down, then we kind of lose like the culture and the history of all these things.
Yeah, I mean, that's one part of that. However, I would also like to turn up a slightly more positive note of positive element to you own nothing, and that is you own nothing, you access almost everything
because of the internet.
Because of the internet, right. Because of the streaming services, you can almost access everything. Like yes, it's a pain to, if you want to watch something, you go to HBO Plus. Then after that, you want to watch something.
You have to go on Disney, you have to go on Netflix.
Yeah, and then if Netflix loses the rights to watch this show, you got to find Paramount or whatever. You know, it's a pain.
Yeah.
But at least legally, you can almost access everything. But yeah, at least I think there is positive growth in the sense that you have the right, or you have the ability to own media that is more consumable because the tech is growing along with it. We all thought that vinyl records were dead in the 80s and 90s. Right.
But it made a comeback anyway, so
yeah, and because people wanted to own things.
I think the hopeful part about like things that got shut down, that if there's enough fan base, there's a huge enough fan base for it, I think there is gonna be ways people have run servers for like
if it's viable,
if
it's viable, it will work.
Yeah.
There's a critical mass and it's viable, it will work. Let's end on the topic of the day. You own nothing, you access almost everything. And then time for a closing segment. So what is the thing that you learned today or recently?
So mine I think it's quite appropriate because we're talking about like music. Not say I didn't know, but rather it was like I kind of only noticed it yesterday. So yesterday was my day off. I overheard the song basically. I overheard the song on radio. It's My Life because I was in McDonald's. Then they were like playing it on the radio. Then like then basically the two names that popped up was Tommy and Gina. So then it kind of got me curious. Didn't Bon Jovi keep using these names to in his songs? Then it's like, so what's the whole gist of it? So I actually went to search. So basically, Tommy and Gina, it's like kind of a shared universe of all John Bon Jovi songs.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I saw your notes. You know what's the first thing that came to my mind?
What?
It's like the whole, like the meme where all the dots are connected.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that's the thing,
So
right?
it's like It's My Life, there was a part that says like this for the ones that stood their ground for Tommy and Gina who never backed down. It was a reference to their earlier track. So It's My Life came out in 2000. So the earlier track was Living on a Prayer in 1986, where the whole song was actually about these two characters, Tommy and Gina, which is so the whole idea was that these two characters are supposed to be like it's a representation of like working class and the resilience of the working class. So Bon Jovi used it for their songs to kind of connect to the everyman and the every woman on the street. So it was quite an interesting thing that I kind of discovered. Oh yeah, there's actually like a common theme that they reuse back for some of their songs.
So Tommy and Gina are the proletariat basically.
If you want to go there, yeah, I guess supposedly.
Yeah.
So yeah, what about you?
Okay.
What's your one
so
thing that you've
this,
learned
this
today?
is not exactly something that I logically learned like recently, but I think something that I appreciate a lot because we are on episode 2 of our podcast. So we are cyclists ish. One of the common memes on cycling is about marginal gains.
Yep.
Right? Marginal
Why you
gains.
buy an OSPW in that sense?
Yeah. Why do you upgrade parts? So because of marginal gain, I get this marginal gain here and marginal gain. Now the term marginal gains came about with Team Sky, right? Team Sky,
Which is current day Ineos Grenadiers.
Ineos, yeah, in the late 2000s, before the London, in the mid to late 2000s, in the run up to the London Olympic Games, Team Sky was the team that brought British cycling, professional cycling, from mediocrity into like world class. And one of the philosophies that they have is called marginal gains. And back in the day, being so precise on things, measuring things and improving parts to have an improvement. So changing the wheels, because that gives a 0.1 or 1% improvement on something will improve the overall result. Now, in the popular culture in cycling, we talk about marginal gains, right? But a lot of people will say that, oh, because I change my tires, I get 1% or 5% better.
Or I wear a tighter top.
If I wear a better
More
fitting,
aero, yeah.
a better fitting jersey, or a aero skin suit, another 5%. And if you add all the 5% together, you get a huge gain. This description of the philosophy isn't exactly wrong, but there is actually...
It's a bit incomplete in that sense.
Yes, there's actually a deeper meaning to it. So last year, I went into this event with Ascent, and they invited Simon Jones, who used to work as part of Team Sky. So Simon Jones described how marginal gains worked in a different way. The way he described to me kind of blew my mind. He didn't describe it in what we term it as upgrades. He termed it as what can you do as a person, as an athlete, or as a teammate. It's not just the athlete that needs to get marginal gains. The mechanics, the people who feed the team,
Yep.
the
chef,
the chefs, how the team bus works and all
the
that.
director sportive and everything.
Yeah, every single person in the team needs to have this idea of, okay, what can I do
to be better.
to be better? And it doesn't need to be a drastic improvement. What is the thing that I can change a little bit that will make a result? Like, they will eventually make a result. It doesn't even have to be a big result. And I think that's a very good way to look at challenges. And I think that's also how at least for myself, I've looked at how we improve this show. I think visually and audio and audibly there are some improvements to be expected in this show. I hope to have more. And it's not just about buying gear. If you look at the gear that we have today compared to the first show,
It's roughly the same. It's just that we kind of tweak it around lah.
yeah, we did some tweaks, and the outlay, I mean the equipment outlay we've spent is actually very little for
For a show, yeah.
yeah, we did not go on to spend an additional extra $5,000 on gear.
Yeah.
We
We didn't go out and buy a red camera in that sense.
No, don't even talk about the red cameras. We didn't even go out and buy like $150 Shure microphones.
Yeah.
You know, we just use existing microphones, but we just adjusted how we use them, and the marginal gains is like, I think we have improvements in certain areas. One, the camera angles, how we sit, how we face each other. I think that has probably given us a better show.
Yep.
Right. Please give us feedback on what you think are improvements that would make your.
Or what do you hope to hear us talk about? That I think that could also give us some inspiration.
Yeah. What you want to hear us talk about, as well as what are the biggest pain points that we could look at, because sometimes a pain point or something that makes this hard to listen to may just need a very small tweak, and the result would be drastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so marginal gains. I think don't just look at marginal gains as buying upgrades to whatever gear you have, but also as a
tweaks
to
to
your
your
mindset.
existing gear and your existing.
not just the existing gear. It's about tweaking the mindset and tweaking the manner in which you do things. Now, this time around, we were gonna ask. We hope that we have done better, and we hope to get some help here. If you enjoyed listening to us, be it one part or all of it, and if you think it's worthy of a friend to give us a listen, please share, right? Please follow us on Spotify. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Yeah, and
What
if
we
you
have for this week?
and also if you know us personally, please tell us your comments. You can tell that to us in the comments box, in the doobly-doo below,
Or you can
just
reach out to us personally. Yeah.
DM us on the socials. If you abuse us, we just block you. It's fine, right? Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you again.